In the shadow of a vengeful god, one man dared to challenge the unyielding might of Rome. 37 war elephants, their trunks swaying like pendulums of doom. 30,000 soldiers, their breath steaming in the frigid dawn. A secret path through mountains no army had ever dared to cross. This was Hannibal Barca's insane gamble to shatter Rome's invincibility, and it nearly worked. The year was 218 BC. Rome, flush with pride from its victory in the First Punic War, strutted as the master of the Mediterranean. Its legions, disciplined and relentless, had crushed Carthage's navy, seizing Sicily and forcing a humiliated peace. Carthage, bled dry, teetered on ruin. Its markets faltered, its harbors lay silent, and its people simmered with resentment. In this crucible of defeat, a boy of 9 stood before his father, Hamilcar, in a temple thick with incense. Blood dripped from a sacrificial lamb as Hannibal swore an oath, to never be a friend to Rome. That vow, etched into his soul, would drive him to wage a war so audacious it would echo through the ages. Hannibal, now a man of 29, burned with purpose. Carthage could not match Rome's legions on open ground or its fleets on the sea. But Hannibal saw another way, a path no general had dared to dream. He would strike Rome at its heart, not by sea, but by land, through the towering Alps, a labyrinth of ice and stone deemed impassable for an army. With 30,000 men, Numidian cavalry, Libyan spearmen, and Spanish swordsmen, he assembled a force as diverse as it was fierce. And at its vanguard, 37 war elephants, towering beasts from African forests, their tusks gleaming like curved scythes. The Alps loomed, a jagged scar across the earth. Snow clung to peaks that pierced the clouds. Hannibal's army marched north from Iberia, their sandals crunching on frost-bitten trails. Gallic guides, bribed with silver, whispered of a hidden pass, but their loyalty wavered. The path narrowed, cliffs rising sheer on either side. Men slipped on ice, their screams swallowed by the wind as they plummeted into chasms. Elephants, their hides cracked and bleeding, trumpeted in panic as their massive feet skidded on frozen slopes. One beast, Surus, Hannibal's favorite, slid toward a precipice, its trunk thrashing, spraying urine that melted the snow in steaming rivulets. Hannibal himself dismounted, seizing ropes to steady the beast, his hands raw and bloodied. Worse, Alpine tribesmen, shaggy and wild, watched from above. They saw weakness in the sprawling column and struck. Boulders rolled down slopes, smashing shields and splintering bones. Then came the bone avalanche, a grotesque tactic. Skulls of fallen warriors, human and animal, were hurled down the cliffs, tumbling in a clattering cascade. The eerie clatter unnerved the troops, who saw grinning death in every bouncing cranium. Men whispered of curses, their morale fraying like worn rope. Hannibal, unyielding, ordered his engineers to clear paths. When a massive boulder blocked the way, he commanded vinegar be poured into its cracks, heated by fires until the stone split with a thunderous crack, his logistical genius turning nature itself into a weapon. At the pass's highest point, with the army battered and half-starved, Hannibal sensed despair. Men gazed into the void, their faces gaunt, their lips cracked from cold. He climbed a ridge, his cloak whipping in the gale, and pointed to the distant plains of Italy, fertile and golden under the sun. "There lies our destiny," he roared, his voice cutting through the wind. Not gold, but the chance to grind Rome into dust. The men cheered, their spirits kindled, and pressed on. After 15 days, the army descended, a ragged but unbroken force, with 26 elephants still lumbering in their ranks. The Romans, smug in their invincibility, laughed at reports of Hannibal's crossing. No army could survive the Alps, they scoffed. But on the banks of the Trebia River, their laughter died. December's chill gripped the valley, the river half frozen, its surface a mosaic of ice and slush. Hannibal studied the terrain, his mind a machine of war. He hid his Numidian cavalry in reeds, their horses' breath silent in the dawn mist. He sent skirmishers to taunt the Roman camp, luring 40,000 legionaries across the icy river. The Romans, shivering in sodden tunics, formed their testudo, shields locked like a turtle's shell. But Hannibal had planned for this. He unleashed his elephants, their hides wrapped in flaming tar-soaked cloth. The beasts, maddened by pain, charged the Roman flank, their trunks swinging, tusks goring. The line buckled as panic spread, legionaries trampling their own in flight. One elephant, blinded by smoke and agony, crashed through the ice, its bulk shattering the frozen river, sending Romans plunging into the frigid depths. The Numidians struck next, their hooves thundering, spears finding gaps in the testudo's crunching collapse. By dusk, 30,000 Romans lay dead, their blood staining the snow crimson. A Carthaginian soldier, barely 16, knelt beside a fallen Roman of the same age, a boy soldier frozen in death, his eyes wide with terror. The victor wept, their youth mirrored in the stillness of the corpse. Hannibal stood atop a rise, surveying the carnage. Victory was his, but doubt gnawed at him. Rome's reserves were vast, its will unbroken. He had crossed the Alps, but could he break an empire? He pushed south, his army swelling with Gallic allies who hated Rome's yoke. For 2 years, he ravaged Italy, winning battles at Lake Trasimene and beyond. But Rome, stubborn and vast, refused to kneel. Hannibal needed a masterstroke, a victory so devastating it would force Rome to beg for peace. In 216 BC, on the plains of Cannae, he found his moment. Rome amassed 80,000 men, their largest army yet, confident in crushing the Carthaginian upstart. Hannibal, with 50,000, chose a field hemmed by hills and a river. His logistical brilliance shone again. He positioned his weaker infantry, Gallic and Spanish troops, at the center, deliberately thin, like a bowstring ready to snap. His elite Libyans and Numidians flanked the wings, hidden by dust and dawn's glare. The Romans, arrogant, charged the center, expecting to punch through. Hannibal's line bent inward, a crescent moon yielding under pressure. The Romans pressed deeper, sensing victory. Then the trap snapped shut. Hannibal's cavalry, led by his brother Hasdrubal, smashed the Roman horsemen, then wheeled to encircle the legions. The Libyans closed in, their spears a wall of death. The Romans, packed tight, could barely swing their swords. Dust choked the air, screams blending with the crunch of bone. By nightfall, 50,000 Romans lay dead, their bodies piled in heaps, the ground slick with blood. Cannae was a masterpiece, its double envelopment tactic studied by generals for centuries. Hannibal's genius had turned Rome's own numbers against it. Yet victory bore the seeds of doom. Hannibal's army, though triumphant, was exhausted. He lacked siege engines to assault Rome's walls, and Carthage, across the sea, sent no reinforcements. Rome, battered but defiant, adopted a new strategy: avoid pitched battles, harass, and starve Hannibal's forces. His Gallic allies drifted away, lured by Rome's gold. Hannibal's greatest weapon, as he had foreseen, was Rome's arrogance, but it was not enough. He roamed Italy for years, a lion caged by circumstance, unable to deliver the final blow. In the end, Rome's vastness outlasted him. Scipio, a Roman general who learned from Hannibal's tactics, struck Carthage itself, forcing Hannibal's recall. At Zama in 202 BC, Rome's legions, now wiser, defeated him. Hannibal fled, his dream of Rome's ruin unfulfilled. Yet his shadow looms eternal. The Alps crossing, the flaming elephants, the bone avalanche, the crescent of Cannae, these were not just battles but legends carved into history's stone. Hannibal had dared the impossible, and though he fell, he taught the world that even gods could bleed.